Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. On today's show, we welcome back my co-founder at WrenchWay, Mark Wilson, for a conversation on everything WrenchWay and what's going to happen in 2026. Some exciting news there that was just recently released. Maybe a touch on some of the stuff that we went through in 2025. Welcome back to the show, Mark. It's been a while since we've had you on.
I know, it's crazy. I think last year's recap show was the last time I was on, even though I'm usually on at least one call a day with you for something else, or I think this is our third one today, but I haven't actually been on the podcast in quite a while.
Yeah, it'll be good to get you back on. What I'll say about this is that this episode is the least amount of preparation that I've ever put into an episode. We kind of are doing this on the fly, doing it as a way to just have a fun year-end show that I think will be a fun listen, and just Mark and I talking back and forth. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do it.
So let's start with kind of the big news that just came out with ASE and the new ASE Connects program. Pretty exciting in what direction we're going as a company, and this news was huge for us.
Yeah, I mean that's a big statement, and I still feel like it's an understatement on how huge it is for us. We'll have more details to come at the webinar in a couple weeks, but it's massive for us. First of all, we're honored to be selected by ASE to help with this project and partner with them. It is an ASE-led thing, but in partnership with WrenchWay, so that's a little different for us. But some of the team members and partners we have, when we talked to them about it, were a little taken back on kind of, well, what happens with the WrenchWay brand and things like this. And, that WrenchWay's still a thing, don't get me wrong, but if we get a chance to partner with ASE and lean into their brand and help them do things industry-wide, we are not idiots. We're going to jump at that chance for sure. And I just think everything goes back to our mission from when we started this to promote and improve technician careers. And we can do that in a much better way as part of ASE Connects going forward. And it's just a much bigger megaphone that we can do all the things and then some that we've already been doing. So we can get into what it is specifically in a little bit, but I just wanted to start with that statement of it's really cool that they've trusted us to partner in some ways lead some of the things we're doing together here.
I agree, and I've mentioned this before. This is something that I won't speak to when we actually do the webinar. Is just when we talk about ASE as a whole. Me growing up in the industry, this was such a big thing. ASE was such a big deal to me growing up, and just always knowing about it for my entire life. And I think they've gone through their ups and downs over the years, and they've really come out, I feel like, stronger as a result. Dave Johnson, who took over a couple of years ago, I think has really changed a lot there already. And I think what he always talks about is blowing the dust off the brand. And this partnership is an example of that. There are other examples of that throughout ASE and a lot of the things that they are doing. And so I think what it's shown, not only us at WrenchWay, but I think the industry as a whole, is that their door is open to partnerships. They're open to really doing what's ever in the best interest of the industry. And I can't say how important that is to me, or it's hard for me to put into words how important that is to me, to see this really iconic brand and one that's very much at the center of our industry be kind of in that position to be able to do some of this stuff. And when I say center of the industry, Mark, that's one of the things that I think was really appealing to us with ASE, is that it isn't just dealers, it isn't just independents, it isn't just one side of our industry, it's everybody, right?
That's definitely true. I mean, literally the name is ASE Connects, meaning ASE is connecting different people within the industry, different entities within the industry for that shared goal of not just helping to solve the technician shortage, but other industry topics. This is a long-term thing. And for us, it only made sense to work with ASE on this. There's a million other great for-profit entities, nonprofits, all the above. But I think ASE is it's kind of like that Goldilocks approach of they're the perfect ones in terms of they work with auto, diesel, collision. Within each of those, it's independents, it's dealers, it's fleets. They're not competing for talent. They're not hiring. We gave up on our recruiting or shifted away from that a while ago. And frankly, some of the job board stuff we do will probably get phased out as well. And again, we'll go through some of that. But ASE is that perfect, like connected to everybody, not in competition with people, and just a great facilitator or way to bring these things and entities together. And it's a big undertaking, all the objectives we're going to be doing with ASE Connects. It does take that approach of kind of many hands and everyone needing to come together. And I saw David posted something on LinkedIn today of how they've noticed the shift in the last couple months of more and more inbound activity reaching out to him. And it used to be ASE when he first started telling people we want to work together, we want to work together, and more outbound. But now groups are coming to him, and I think it's a combination of one, he and his team have done a great job of letting them know ASE is open for business and does want to work with people. But then two, I think groups are just realizing we can't be in a silo. We can't do this alone. We need to get more kids in the industry. We need to keep the technicians we have. And something kind of magical, I think, is happening. And we just couldn't be positioned at a better time or with a better partner to be launching this at this time with this partner.
Such a good point. And I think at some level, it's being able to get people to put the swords down for a little bit and really fight for the greater good, and really trying to make sure that these schools are healthier, make sure that these shops have maybe some data to be able to analyze to run their operations better than they typically would. And as you mentioned, ASE being kind of that entity, or that business that's the one that can do this. I don't know that there is any other business out there that can do it, nonprofit or for profit. And for us to tie some of our technology and what we've built over the years into this ASE Connects program, I think makes it really, really beneficial to everybody in the industry. And for us, it's, I think you mentioned it, but going back to our promoting improving technician careers, the entire point of our business in the first place, in the entire mission, this aligns so perfectly well with everything that they're doing with this ASE Connects program, and just has me really excited about what's to come in 2026.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And it better, we're betting the company on it, basically. You and I started this thing, and we put a lot of time into effort to get to where we are. Um, but now, once we saw this opportunity and kind of were asked to build it and help manage it, I think you'd agree. It's fair to say we put all the chips in the middle, and we're pushing hard with this thing. We truly believe this is needed for the industry, and ASE is a perfect one to do it, and we're happy to be along for the ride.
I think we absolutely did put our chips in on the table, but I also think it's a testament to Dave and the entire team at ASE, because if we weren't confident in the direction that they were going as a company, there's no way we would have done that. And it was just having that level of confidence and that level of relationship with these folks that, as we've really gotten to know them, what have we been in true partnership with them for about a year now, or just over a year. But in that time frame, being able to really get to know these people and know how genuinely they care about this industry, and the shops in it, and the schools in it, and the technicians in it, and wanting to see all of it get to a better place, I think that's what made it evident that a partnership was not only likely but needed, and that we're all kind of rowing in that same direction. We're all trying to help everybody out. And uh, without that confidence level in them, I don't think maybe we would have been as interested in this as well.
Definitely, yeah, not to the level we are now, and not to um, kind of jump off the cliff in a good way and figure it out on the way down. That's kind of where we're at. There has been a lot of planning, and we're not just reckless with this, but we are putting ourselves out there a little bit. And I wouldn't have done it a year ago for sure. So it's exactly right. It took all the things you're talking about, and then honestly, it took us not just getting to know them as a company or as an entity and the individuals, but understanding the problems they face. I think you and I were a little guilty of kind of Monday morning quarterbacking some things and thinking, oh, why don't this is so easy? Why don't you just do that? And I do think they have a lot of solvable problems that we can help with, but you realize as you dive in, there's a lot more to it than maybe meets the eye, and they are, and now with our help, on the path to get this done. But I don't know. It, as with everything else in life, it's a little more complicated than you first think going into it.
At 100%. There's a lot going on with ASE, and being that kind of connector of everybody, it entails a lot of relationships, and entails, I feel like I travel a lot for work. I don't think what I do pales in comparison to what Dave and George and even Mike, like what the amount of travel that they're doing to go out and attend these conferences and talk to these key players throughout the industry. You know, they're doing so much good, and that feet on the ground type of effort to be able to really build these relationships up in a way that's not artificial. They're building true relationships in ways that are very impactful. So couldn't agree more with that. Now, as people listening might be wondering, and I don't know how much we can share here, because we do have a webinar that's coming up a couple weeks after this. I believe it's on January 15th. And we'll dive into all of the nuts and bolts of this new ASE Connects program. But what can we share today about the program, even maybe some high level type stuff?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, we're building a community, mostly a virtual community, but there would certainly will be in-person events throughout the country and throughout the calendar year. Um, it should include really everybody that wants to see technicians' careers be improved and get more kids in the industry. So important to us and to ASE was to include all schools in this and to keep it free for all schools. Um, Not just ASE accredited schools. We have a lofty goal. We're going to sign up every school in the country over time. Now that takes a while. Every high school, every post-secondary that has an auto, diesel, or collision program, and then the high schools don't have to have a program. Some of them will be very active. Some of them will just make sure we find out how many students you have in your program or in your school that might be a fit for this career, and can we get materials to them even if you don't have an official program. But that is number one on the community side, is building the schools. And then the other side is industry. That takes the shape of shops, dealers, OEs, vendors that service the industry, kind of all of the above. But we first are focusing on shops and dealerships. We have some experience with this, growing our own community for a while. So a lot of what we've already built is rolling into this. The main thing being School Assist, which we already have, I think, about 3,400 schools participating. For the listeners that don't know what that is, it's a simple way for schools to go in and just ask for stuff, whether that means a shop to, if you got 6 kids that need to tour a shop or do a job shadow, or you want someone to come in and talk to your classroom, or donated tools, part-time jobs for your kids, any of those things that you're looking for from industry. We give you a place to just post what you're looking for, and then we'll get local shops and dealers to scroll through those things and see what they can help with, and raise their hand to do so. So shops get access to all of that for schools. We'll be adding even new features to that, which I'm really excited about. I think we'll touch on more in January about that. So the school side is very important. But then a really cool data part, we're calling it the Industry Data Exchange. Um, it is what it sounds, you know. We're not always the most creative here. It's exchanging industry data, big shocker. But the complexities of that, I think there are a lot of groups trying to gather data, but they don't really always trust each other. And we work with a bunch of different OEs, so I'll just say as an example, Ford isn't going to volunteer their data with GM and vice versa, or dealers don't want to share their data with either other dealers or independents. And NADA is great, but it's primarily dealerships, and then there's similar things on the independent side. Um, So again, going back to what I was saying earlier in this episode, ASE is just really well positioned that with our help, we'll gather the data on what do technicians actually earn, what shops offer what benefits, what labor rates are being charged, and then we can build tools that share that information with shops and dealers, yet retain the privacy or the keep it anonymous, so no one can figure out, this shop pays their technicians this amount or they charge their customers this amount. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what can be done on that data side. Everyone we talk to kind of lights up, and everyone wants 1,000 times more data than we can start with. But our point is always we have to start somewhere, and starting to gather this in a simple form. And it's kind of progress each month, each quarter, each year, we'll make more progress on it. So that's kind of some word salad there. I apologize for rambling a little, but the two main things we're starting with are make it super simple for industry and schools to work together, and then get data in the hands of decision makers that can make sure they're competitive or improve their offering to their technicians.
Yeah, and I think we had already seen the growth with the school assist side. What's exciting to me is that data side, right? Like I obviously the school assist side is exciting to me as well, but you love data, you love diving into this stuff. I think this is something that our industry could greatly benefit from. And we've done our technician pay tool. We've done like the voice of technician survey, just got finished up with that. That's 5,500 responses from technicians that we've verified our technicians. And that data is so helpful, maybe not so specific to the voice of technician survey, but more so just getting real data in a way that is easy to read, maybe even a little bit more real time, and not having to wait for it. I think from my personal end, I'm excited to be able to see you dive into some of this data and some of the other talented folks on our team, because I think we can do some stuff that hasn't been done before in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, agreed 100%. But even before that, it's exciting and it's a combination of like logistics and user experience and just gathering the data on how do you do this without making it too cumbersome or too complicated for people. And you don't want to have them take 2 hours to submit all the data. It's got to be pretty easy, but yet meaningful. Even on the school side, when we say we want to get every single school, I love being able to say, like, as you know, we're very deep into going state by state and first getting a list of every single high school that's out there and figuring out in every single state what are different requirements, and CTE programs are not the same from state to state, and what, like, maybe their technical colleges have tuition reimbursements, but just become someone on our team becoming experts about every single state and what's out there. And that part all started with us, you and I, being kind of frustrated going to multiple ASE board meetings in a row. And the question came up of like, well, how many programs are out? How many automotive programs are out there? And nobody could answer it. And it's not just ASE, and nobody can. And so it's like, well, we should be the ones. And really, ASE, you should be the ones. And now we're helping them to figure that out and get that. And the same thing with the data. We took it as far as getting a meeting. ASE hooked us up with a meeting with the Bureau of Labor Statistics to find out how they gather their data, and our jaws dropped with how bad it is, at least for our industry, and not we all knew it wasn't representative of what technicians can make, but I think that call helped us figure out why it's so bad, and it works in other industries for them, maybe. I don't know. I probably said it wouldn't for that too, or would say it doesn't as well, but they're not going to change. So instead of just complaining about that, there needs to be a more credible source with verifiable data. And again, ASE, WrenchWay, maybe we could do that on our own, but with ASE's name and their reach, we can actually tackle that problem and be the one that schools reference. And as an example, you've heard me say this, sorry, Jay, for repeating, but I'm sure some of the listeners haven't. I get so irritated when I look at school websites promoting their automotive or diesel or collision programs, and then they cite the BLS for what people can make, and then you scroll down and the next program is a different skilled trade and the numbers are 50% or more higher. Um, and it's not true. Over the years, we have worked with thousands and at least hundreds, but probably thousands of shops and dealers, and those numbers are not accurate at all. So why not be the one to show accurate information? Like these are big problems. I think that's why ASE chose to work with us is we positioned it how I just did of like, well, what are you doing about it? You guys need to be the ones doing it. And if you don't want to, we'll partner with us. Like we will roll up our sleeves and do it. And not to toot our own horn, but I think they were pretty impressed with that. And now we have to go do it. We sold them on that we can do it, and we will. But now the fun starts. So sorry, to bring it all the way back. Yes, I'm excited to dive into all the data. I'm excited just to tackle the project of gathering all the data. Like just that part is super fun.
I it's funny because you had mentioned how we had been frustrated with going to some of the board meetings for ASE, and that conversation came up pretty consistently, and really just understanding how many schools are out there, how many schools are out there with automotive programs, how many schools are out there that are accredited, how many that aren't accredited but offer the program. Like just there's so many different ways that you could go with this, and just understanding the broader scope of all of this. And I think my assumption was the data was out there for schools, and so I didn't really think too much about it until we started to dive into it. And you start even using like a chat GPT or using some of the other stuff, and it is shocking how little data is out there. I mean, we obviously tried some of the some of the lower hanging fruit things first, but as we dove into it, you started to see that there was no good data about this. And it's, to me, just it was so surprising to me that there is so little data around the school side of not only just our trade but all of them. And it was I don't know, it seems so weird to me that there just wasn't the data out there.
Super weird. But I also see how it happens and see how daunting it is that nobody wants to tackle it because it's not a one-time thing. Once you do all this organization and get it, you have to get the data again next year, and people you talk to get it left or retired, and they don't always update everything, and it's an ongoing thing. I look at kind of your background and I see some books on the shelf. I compare it to just like walking into a giant library of, tens of thousands of books there that are just in piles, and we have to find a way to organize them and then make sure people can figure out how to find them. And then each year we'll get 10,000 more dumped on a plate. But I don't know, that's fun to me, and it is something that we're going to do, but we're going to need the help of a lot of other people with this too.
That's why you and I are good business partners, because that sounds really fun to you. That sounds really, really not fun to me. So that part is really hard, and it does take some nose down hard work. And it does, when we look at our greater mission, does truly impact everything. Because I talk a lot about the scenarios that I grew up in, and being able to articulate what starting salary is, what salary once you're in the trade for 5 years or 10 years, what that looks like, and do it in a sense that's not lying to people. I think I've said the opposite is true at times too, where maybe that trade school that's out there trying to get kids in their program might overemphasize what that beginning salary is. And so you almost set that unrealistic expectation for a beginner. But then at the same time, you're like, no, you can make really good money in this industry as a technician. But it takes, just like anything else. I think we've talked about this before with your background as a CPA. Like, it took work to become a good CPA. It takes work to become a good engineer, a good lawyer. Like, it's not like you just automatically hop in and know everything and that everything's easy. Like, there is a progression just like every other industry. And it just, if we can get a better understanding so we don't have to overemphasize the beginning salary, and then maybe accurately depict what the salary of a person that's been in it for a while is. I think we're telling the truth more to that student that's out there, and they don't expect that they're going to make 100 grand a year right off the bat, and they do understand that you're going to have to work hard to work your way up, just like any other industry. There are barriers with tools, there are barriers with sometimes education, but I think my point is in all of this that we do have a really great industry. And if we can tell the truth and still be confident that young people are going to want to come into our industry, which I think they will, I know they will, we're much better off because you're not setting this kind of fake foundation for a young person coming in. I want somebody to know the whole picture of what it's like.
Yeah, and that goes for the other side of it too. Shops and dealers need to realize even if a kid graduated from this program, even if they already have some OE experience or ASE certification, like they're not going to be experts. Everybody's going to need training. You had mentioned doctors, lawyers, CPAs. Like before I ever stepped foot into my profession, when I started, I work on in software now, but I started as a CPA. I mean, I had a bachelor's, I had a master's. I thought I knew everything. I go in there and very quickly realized, to be blunt, I didn't know shit. Like I knew the book parts of it. I didn't know how to do things in the real world. But I went to a very large, well-respected firm that taught me all of those things. And they knew there were 10 other kids also my age, starting just like me, that think we know it all. And they humbled us really quickly. But they also taught us what needs to be done. I have to assume doctors do the same, lawyers do the same. We need shops to realize that too. And for the most part, they do. I mean, I won't say the name, but we were with the OE a couple months ago and they were talking about a change in their approach on some of the schools they promote that need to scale back a little and focus on the basics because too many kids were coming in. Maybe you remember some specifics without saying the
Yeah.
OE, but like they couldn't even do this and they were trying to teach them way too complicated things. Like, let's just get them to do the basics, and then the shops and the dealers can teach them the other things going forward. I don't know if you want to add to that or not.
Yeah, I think I do remember that conversation, and I've had several of those conversations now where I think there's a disconnect between that's one disconnect between industry and education, in that I think a lot of industry over the years kind of kept going back to the schools and saying, well, we need more electrical diag techs, and we need more electrical, we need more electrical. Well, I think for schools, you automatically tend to go to, oh, you need people to be able to advancedly diagnose something, and then ultimately you do, but you also have to be realistic about what a young person's going to learn at a 2-year technical school. It's not like they're going there for 4 or 6 years. Like there is a transition period over. And I always use that example that you had, kind of getting into the accounting world, in that you went through all the schooling, you learned maybe theory, you learned the book side, and then really application side happened once you were in the field. I actually think our industry could learn a lot from that. Of, you're in school to learn the theory and maybe how things work, and how a system, how an electrical system works, how to use basic tools. But it really should be then the shops an extension of that, into bringing them into a real world experience. And I had a younger tech a while back come to me and say, I go and apply at a lot of these shops, and they say that they won't hire me unless I have experience. But how am I supposed to get experience if they won't hire me until I have experience? And I'm like, that's a really good point. But as a whole, I think that's hopefully something we can dig into with data down the road too, to kind of identify some areas that shops can refine, and maybe even schools can refine a little bit, right? And we can, rather than going into every advisory committee meeting and saying we need more electrical skill, we actually have some specific things that they can work on as they're kind of getting ready to come out into the real world.
Yeah, well said. And we're not the only industry with that issue. The whole like
No.
you need this many years of experience. I've hired a lot of software developers over my time, and I've seen some ads asking for specific language, like coding language experience, and that language had only been around for like 4 or 5 years, and they're asking for 10 years experience. And it's kind of funny of like, okay, what HR person posted this ad? Because clearly they have no idea what they're talking about. That happens everywhere, and I mean also, and I'm going off the rails a little bit here too, but
That's all right.
think of all the times, you and me included, we've complained about just this generation. And our parents complained about us, I guarantee it. And their parents complained about them. And maybe this time it's different, whatever. But all these things recycle or happen again. We got to learn from history. But I just think it's funny how, like, I think you and I are probably about the oldest millennial, and that was such a dirty word for a while. And now I don't even know what it is, Gen Z or
And
whatever. But
Z.
it's just, it's all the same crap over and over, all the same complaints. And yes, it is different. Yes, I get very frustrated. I hear anecdotes about, I think you had one where some kid's parent showed up with him at a job interview. Like, that's crazy to me. But the just as a whole, taking away those like exceptions, I always say don't let the exception become the rule. Most people want to work hard, want to be challenged, know that they're going to have to, not be handed it on a silver platter. It's just these crazy stories like the one you have. People then try to represent that as a generation entirely. And it's
Yeah.
just not true. Like,
I always use the example of a shop hires one kid from a specific school and they don't have a good experience with that kid. And then they just assume that entire school is that way. And I'm like, no, like you gotta, they're all different people. Everybody learns different. Everybody, they're just different people. So don't make one judgment on an entire school. In my example, on one student, like there are, there are plenty of good and bad and everything in between at every school, every industry, everywhere, right? It's just different people. So,
yep.
fair point, really good point. To summarize all of that, we are so excited about 2026, about everything going on with ASE Connects, our partnership with ASE as a whole. I do want to take a second to reflect on some things in 2025. One of the things that I thought was really exciting was a partnership we had on the collision side of things with iCar. And a kind of similar vein to ASE in that just a lot of great people that we've gotten to know over the past year, some cool projects that we've worked on with them. Uh, what can you tell me about that, about the iCar partnership and maybe some of the stuff we've been working on there?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's coming up on a year, maybe over a year. I know you guys had talked at, was it SEMA
SEMA.
last year? Yeah, in 2024. So that would have been Halloweenish time. Um, but then from there, we all met in Chicago, iCar, us, ASE, and Craft, and started a series of meetings throughout the year that turned into some things that, we're all four still working on. Some other things have been announced. It turned in some direct partnerships with us and iCar. Uh, they launched, well, they've always had collision careers, but we built them, in my opinion, a better version of a job board for entry level students on the collision side. So that's something that's out. It's live now. It's powered by WrenchWay, but it's an iCar thing, or it's a collision careers thing. Um, we're happy to help with that. They also have a new student profiles where students can go in and just answer a few questions. It'll automatically pull in all of their iCar badges and classes and skills that they've had. You can enter your work experience, things like that, but then we'll create a very professional resume for them. But more importantly, that profile is then published to a ton of collision shops and dealers. I mean, nobody works on the collision side with more people than iCar. Um, so that gets shown, and then those hiring people at those collision places can kind of scroll through the student profiles. They can message them. They can convince them to come in and interview or check out the shop, and it makes it easier to connect. And some of those elements we're gonna add on to ASE Connects, and others will stay separate with just iCar. But the willingness to work together out of iCar has been really cool. I know our dev team has liked it. In the two main projects we've done with them, we had weekly meetings and then twice a week meetings for a while during crunch time. And it's just really cool to see what's going on with other entities with the clout. I don't know the right word, but that again, just like ASE, everybody knows iCar, and they do a phenomenal job at what they do. And it's fun to learn from them and be part of it and get people that realize we don't all need to create the same thing or fight against each other, like on the job board side, rather than them building their own. We kind of just powered their job board for the collision side for entry level collision people.
Yeah, and the profiles are awesome. Like
Yeah,
as somebody that I'm not directly involved with the actual build out, and you're so much better at that with the ability to work with our dev team and the marketing team and just design and UX as a whole. In As I go through it, I'm like, one, I really wish this was around when I was going through school because that would make life a lot easier. And two, I think we're scratching the surface on making the lives of instructors easier to kind of navigate some of these industry relationships as a whole. And as you're seeing more and more instructors utilize the platform, I think they're starting to see that more and more as well. And when I said we're just scratching the surface on that student profile side, I truly think when it gets in their hands, you'll be able to see that it's making their lives easier, and hopefully it does.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we have both countless stats and anecdotal stories supporting that of the good we've done with these things, and it's just scratching the surface. And up until this point, it's mostly been instructors and administrators at the schools. In 2026, we'll be adding students as well that they can directly do some of these things. We talked a little about the student profiles, but even before that, if a kid wants to find a place to job shadow, I was shocked how hard it is, or to go tour. And right now, we let instructors post that they have 6 kids looking for a job shadow, but we're going to make it where students of the schools can kind of post here's who I am, here's a few things about me. I'm looking to just see what it's like working in this industry, and they can post those and shops can see that. And it sounds simple, but there's a lot like under 18 and there's laws in different states on what can be posted, what information can be shared. Like that's our wheelhouse. We take care of all that to make sure, we're following all the rules there. Um, but adding a student side to it is just one example of the things we can do with ASE Connects going forward and with iCar. I'm really excited about that. You were the one that taught me because your family shop does a great job of bringing in kids for job shadows. And I talked earlier about don't let the exception become the norm. Well, like in this case, the exception you should become the norm. It was crazy to me that not enough people are doing that, and that's where your technicians come from. Like maybe no one wants or you don't want to share that with your competitors because that's, in my opinion, I think that's where you've gotten your last like 3 or 4 really good techs.
It is. And I don't mind sharing that with my competitors. In fact, I've had direct conversations with competitors and told them about it because even for our small part of Wisconsin that we're in, I think the more we work together to help a school out and help, the kind of for the greater good, the less we're going to be taking each other's people and the less we're going to be, it just feels healthier to me. And it kind of goes back to what I always said when I was a kid, when my dad just said, you don't take texts from your competitive shops. And that always kind of, I think when we were transitioning from even back to Find a Wrench to WrenchWay, that was one of the things that really stuck out to me. It was like, my gosh, like even the job board, it's, ultimately the whole thing is to take a tech from one place and put them in another. And you're not solving anything then. And so for me, even at our local level, I'd love more local shops to get involved with the schools. And could we be arguing over one student at one point? Maybe, but I would much rather have a stronger program that's putting out a lot of future technicians. And even, you know, I think this is more maybe just a me thing than other folks in our business, but I also don't want the kid that's not going to be a fit coming into our shop, and for that kid's sake, because I don't want them to come spend a bunch of money on tools and spend a bunch of money on training and everything that they're they're going to invest to not be in this. And so I think the more exposure you get to them, the more trust you earn with the general public, who, by the way, end up becoming your customers at some point in a shop. So, I just think there's so much value in getting young people into your shop in one way or another. I also think the more you do it, the more comfortable your team gets with having visitors in the shop. And if it's only once a year, I like to do job shadows multiple times a year, because I think that helps our team understand what their responsibilities are, and when a new person comes in. And it's hopefully not as awkward as it would be if it's just the one time a year where somebody's coming in and they're a little bit more conditioned to welcome that person in. So just so many things where I look at this for the greater good of the industry, and the greater good of the industry is going to personally benefit us at some point, and it has, when we're really involved with schools.
Yeah, if you're a leader at a shop in a dealership, and at this point you don't see the importance of helping schools and growing your own, I mean, sorry,
Part
you're
of the
probably
problem.
not going to make it. Yeah, you're probably struggling with a lot of parts of your business. Actually, I think about it's not even this industry. Any industry, you have to bring on entry level people. Even in sports, you need to grow through the draft a little bit. You can't just sign every big name free agent. Like, it should be common sense, but the amount of people that say, I don't have the time, I'm not going to invest in that. Well, that's one of the things we're trying to do, is make it more efficient for you and easier for you, but you're still going to have to put a little time and probably a little money into it. But if you can't see the bigger picture, that in the long run, that's going to save you a ton of time and money, like I said, you're probably putting out some crazy fires, and it's just a matter of time before your shop or you personally aren't going to make it. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's the reality of it.
Kind of look at it, and apologies to those sports fans that are out there, but in our backyard are the Milwaukee Brewers, and for baseball fans that are out there, they don't have a big budget. They're never going to be able to spend as much money as the other teams, but they were in the NLCS last year. They developed people, in my opinion, as good or better than anybody else, and they've come up with a system that works for them. I think the equal thing can be said for shops. It doesn't matter if you've got the most amount of money. It doesn't matter if you've got the best systems in place. It does matter if you are trying to improve and you're trying to get to a better place in terms of staffing, and looking at it beyond this month's P&L, right? Like looking at it through a long-term lens. That's one of my biggest pet peeves that I was guilty of when I was in the industry, where when working in shops every single day, was that I was solely focused on a monthly P&L, because that's what I was judged on by our ownership group, right? And so you kind of are conditioned to behave that way. But that's maybe my call out to those shop owners and dealer principals that are out there, that maybe if you can help your team understand things beyond that monthly P&L, I think there's a lot of benefit in that. And maybe they'll look at the long-term growth a little bit more seriously. Whereas if they're solely judged and paid off of that monthly P&L, you're going to have a tough time with long-term growth, and kind of just the stability, and in my opinion, the enjoyment that goes with stability, and not having a tech leave every month or every other month, and continually trying to fill the gaps in that sinking ship, plug the holes in that sinking ship. It's really coming up with a system that makes your business pretty enjoyable if you can do it right.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, I started as a CPA, and you talk about monthly P&L, investing in your future techs, although technically is an expense, should be an investment or an asset that really doesn't even hit the P&L. Or if I'm an owner or principal, like, I'm excluding that, because you're crazy. I mean, we were on a call again with a president of a 60 plus location place today. They don't need to do any recruiting. They have more people coming to them than they can deal with, and it's because for 15 years they've invested in culture, and they've invested in schools, and they're doing things the right way. but he's also smart enough to know once he stops doing that stuff, like all the good they're doing is going to go away. And so he's investing heavily in the ASE Connects going forward and going to be one of the, you know, flagship companies that we tout in the next year about this. And we just need more people like that. And I'm excited in 2026 to be able to fully tackle this and promote those and share those great stories even more so than we have done so far.
Yeah, me too. As we're kind of getting closer to the end of this, I am curious if there are other maybe wins throughout 2025. Not to put you on the spot, because we again did zero preparation for this, but it felt like we just had a really good year and there were a lot of really cool things that happened. But anything in particular that might stick out to you? The iCar thing was huge. The ASC progression has been huge, but anything over and above that that you want to point to that you feel was pretty awesome?
Yeah, you covered the big ones already. We have some other emerging partnerships we won't talk about yet, but the big ones I think we covered. So I'm gonna shift gears to the smaller ones. We do a good job, in my opinion, of listening to our users in the community and taking what works in one area and trying to get it in others. And from a product side, a very small thing is in the past, we would ask instructors, like, what do you need help with? And we would give them categories and that's it. Well, now we gave them actual templates of like, here's 10 specific things that you can type up your own if you want, or you can just click a button and maybe tweak a few words in this one, but it's 90% done for you. And that helped a lot to get more people asking for things. It's shocking how hard it is. All these instructors need help, and well, what do you need help with? Well, I don't really know, or I'll type it up later. So we made it easier for them, so much so that right now we have 2,000 open requests from schools that we need to get fulfilled here in the next several months, and we will. One specifically that I want to highlight, though, one of those templates was asking local shops and dealers if they have any female technicians that could come in and talk to their class or their like junior high or lower level classes to inspire to get more females in. I thought that was a cool idea at the time. I thought we'd get a few doing it. Whoa, like great response on that. Kind of shame on us for not doing that earlier. We've done over the years a lot of things on getting more females, but that simple thing of like making it a click button thing of is that something that would help your program? The amount of instructors that, oh, I didn't even think to post that blew my mind. And so anyway,
A great
here I am
example.
rambling again. You covered all the big things, but that's a very minor thing, and I want to just keep stacking up small wins like that. And I think that incremental changes or in incremental wins are how you make these big changes that we're talking about.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's where we've shown the most growth as a company is willingness to adapt and listen to the customers and listen to the schools and really try to identify those ways that we can make their lives easier. And so I very much agree with that. Uh,
What about you? What other wins for you?
it's funny. We as we're going through our own employee reviews here over the last few weeks, we had gone fully remote as a company, and we we have some people from out of state. We have our team's really kind of spread out now. Both you and I lived close to where our office was before. We each moved in opposite directions, and it just didn't make sense anymore to have that central location. And so we had a get together where we hadn't seen everybody in a while, and got together in Madison, Wisconsin, where we're at or where we're around, and um, it was so fun just to hang out. We had some drinks with our team, like just played games, like kind of silly games in a boardroom at one point, and it was just so fun to see our team, and was just as I was looking back over the course of the year, one of those things that where when we got together, you just started to really appreciate, and not that we don't or I haven't, but like appreciate how talented our people are, how nice our people are, like just how much they care about one another, and how many friendships go beyond what we even do at WrenchWay now, like that have evolved. And I say that a lot, that the people side of business is what makes it so fun for me. And just that week was a lot of fun. And so that was, I said, I think my favorite day of the year uh, this year in general. And so that was, it's a small thing, but it was a really big thing to me.
Yeah, again, now people listening are just going to think I bring everything back to accounting, but when we decided to go remote, and for a quick backstory, Jay and I used to live like 10 miles away, and then he moved an hour or so one direction, and I moved the other direction, and it was frankly a lot to each of us to drive to our office to just be on Zoom calls all day anyway. So like we don't have a shop. That's not our business. So when we did decide to go remote, the accountant in me was like, "Oh wow, we're gonna save all this money," and we did. But seeing that interaction, like we don't save money. You spend that money in other ways to fly everyone here and take them out to dinner and do team building stuff. Like we're really not gonna save any money. It's just it's spent differently. Um, so that's really cool. And then as you were talking, I meant to say this to you earlier, but doing these reviews, we didn't have one person leave the company this year. Like that's never happened for us, nor any company I've ever worked for. There's always, I mean, you get retires, people's spouses leave and get transferred, or life happens, maybe someone becomes a stay-at-home mom or whatever. So part of it is luck, but that is pretty crazy and pretty cool. We also had two people that did move that if we weren't remote, we probably would have lost. So this isn't like a everybody go remote speech because that's not practical for a lot, and it
No,
does have its challenges and downsides. But more importantly, I'm going to change my answer. One of the big things for 2025 was I don't think I've ever been at a company that, and we're a small team, but still to not lose one person is pretty awesome.
hadn't thought about that until you just said that. And that is really, really impressive. Total credit to our team. And something that was a common theme as we were going through is just how adaptable and willing our team is to do things that are even outside of their job description and just roll up their sleeves and go to work. And it's, I think, so such a testament to our team, right? Like they go out, and any of the listeners that work with any of our team probably know this. They're a fun group. They like to have fun. They like to get stuff done. They're just like the most ideal group, and I want to brag them up a little bit just because they're awesome. And it was it's funny as you look back at a year, that's one of the things that really stuck out to me. And that was before I even knew that nobody left this year. So,
Well, and think of the rolling up your sleeves. We talked earlier about the big lofty goal of getting every school in the country. I mean, we got some questioning looks from our team when we told them we were going to do that, and it was going to be a combination of AI and some new people, but you guys are also going to be emailing, calling, researching all of the things. And at first it was kind of like, whoa, there's no way we're actually going to do it. And then we break it down and start looking at state by state how it's actually achievable. And I think the team's fully bought into that. And it's been almost like a rallying cry of having this big lofty goal that, all right, when you break it down, it's doable. I want to be part of that. I think it's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's a big goal, but I think one that our team is for sure all on the same page and wanting to really tackle. So I think those are all. I mean, 2025, as I look at it as a whole, in my opinion, was probably the most successful year we've had in business. Just not even from a monetary standpoint, just really of gaining traction and getting to break down silos throughout everywhere. When we talk about ASE, we talk about iCar, we talk about some of the OEMs, we talk about really just being a central figure amongst all of it. I think we really made a lot of headway in 2025 that I think is just set such a great foundation for everything that we're going to see with ASE Connects moving forward, that we should be able to hit the ground running in 2026 and really do it from the time we do that webinar on. I think we're going to be rolling as fast as we can.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if we have time for, we said all the wins we want to share. Any L's, any losses that without throwing anyone under
I
the
knew that was
bus?
coming. Yeah.
You have to go first on this one.
Oh, that's so hard. I think
You can do personal and business or both if you want.
hmm, there was a lot that went into this year. We finally moved into our house. Um, and I think this is a progressive L, but how long it's taken me to get my office in order at the new place. We had literally built an office in a shed that's at the property, and it's just taken a long time, and it feels like it's still not where it needs to be. And I need more cabinets, and just in general, I feel a little out of sorts with this. So it's kind of a soft L, but it is one where it's been a frustration for me. So I don't know if I've got a better answer than that. I don't. How about you?
On a personal side, I sit here about a month away from a beach vacation, and I sit here at an all-time high weight-wise. So I had the cliche like I'm gonna get in shape, and that definitely did not happen, and it's only gonna get worse in the next week for the holidays. But I need to do better on that. So that maybe that can be one of my goals again for next year. On the business side, we talked a lot about good partnerships. There are some that I think we could have done better and will do better in the future. We're not perfect, nor do we claim to be. Um, so we have some things to figure out. And then also, um, I personally could have communicated better to the team everything that's going on. Like with ASE, even our small team, I couldn't share some of the things going on, but I don't know. Going through
It's a
maybe it's
weird
because
line to
it's
walk.
fresh going through our performance reviews now, but I'm like, man, yeah, I should have updated that person more, give them a pat on the back a little more, and we get so busy and excited in some of these things, and you're much better at the team management side of it than I am. But yeah, that would be my L, I would think, is just needing to be a little better in that area.
Uh, yeah, I think that's something. All of those things are things that I could work on. The weight loss plan hasn't worked for the last 20 years, so I'm really uh, needing to focus on that. Darren Damron, who's probably listening right now, shout out to you because you always remind me of that. But I the one last
He's
thing I was
also
gonna.
jacked and
He
he's
is.
like way
He's
better
huge.
shape than we'll ever be. Yeah.
Also, college football player, so that helps. But I you know, I think the one I did want to share one story that I thought was my favorite story of the year, which was we were at the ASE board meeting in Indianapolis, and it just happened to be during the NBA finals. And so all of ESPN and all of the sports crews were kind of staying at the same hotel. I remember having to wear your badge all the time. Otherwise, you couldn't get back to our conference room because you had to go through NBA security, all that kind of fun stuff. But we stayed up late one night. Mark, I think you missed out on this one, but we got to meet Charles
Yeah.
Barkley, and that was a random, super random thing. And I told Jen at ASE the expectation has moved up to where now every time you plan a meeting, we need it to be at the same time as some major event because we had such a fun time down there. It was just fun. Shout out Indianapolis too. It was a great time down there. Great city.
Yeah, I definitely should not have gone to bed early that night.
It's the one time where going to bed early didn't pay off.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah. But no, all in
And I'm
all,
not that guy, as you know. Usually you and I are the last ones to leave.
we're
I think
pretty
I had to
guilty
give
of
a
that.
speech the next day or something, but yeah.
But all in all, such a memorable year. So many great things. It went so fast, like that. You're looking at as we record this is almost Christmas Day. We'll be releasing this New Year's Day or just before that, and it feels like we just did our last podcast talking about the recap but it's been awesome with you again this year. It's been awesome with our team. 2026 looks to be very, very exciting with the ASE Connects news. And just in general, I hope everybody that's listening, I wish you all great luck for 2026. Hope you start off with a bang and just hope everybody has a good year.
Yeah, I agree. And especially to you. Thanks, Jay, for everything you do. And you and I are guilty of being workaholics, so hopefully over this next week and a half, we both can enjoy some downtime and not think too much about work, even though I'm sure we will.
Our wives will report back if we do, and that's most likely going to happen. We'll work at some point, but we'll get through it. But no, thanks again to everybody. Thanks to all of our listeners, everybody that supports not only WrenchWay and what we're doing with ASE Connects, but Beyond the Wrench, and can't wait to get on and record more episodes next year. So take care, everybody. Happy New Year. That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you liked this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, did you know Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team? WrenchWay is an online community dedicated to promoting and improving automotive and diesel careers. We help technicians find the best shops to work at, and we also help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors get more support from local industry. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com.